Welcome, everybody. This is Michael. We'll give a few minutes for some people to join in, and I'll check back in here in a minute. All right, welcome everybody to our annual webinar, EB5 TEAs. We will discuss what you need to know in 2019. Michael Kester, a partner and lead EB5 economist here at Impact DataSource. Our main focus with the EB5 program, for those of you who don't know us, are economic studies and business plans, and also the TEA analysis and certification assistance, which we'll discuss today. So we've been doing this for quite a while now, and so don't hesitate to let us know any questions you might have. Here's just kind of a brief list of some of our services and industry tools and everything, and we'll discuss kind of more on that later. So today's main focus, is going to talk about target employment areas, and why are we holding this webinar now, and why do we care? The main reason is because the states that certify TEAs are in the process of, or have already changed over to new TEA data. And so the question is, for most people, is do I need a new letter? And the answer to that is probably. So if you have an ongoing EB5 project that you're still filing and looking to file investors on, then you will likely need a new letter, and we'll get more into that today. As well, we'll talk a little bit more about the program as well, just kind of what's going on legislatively and with DHS's proposed rules and all of that. As we get into this, I will kind of move a little bit quickly through the slides. Some of the slides will have a lot of detail on it, so if you missed anything, don't worry, we'll send out a recording of the webinar so you can go back through. And then, of course, as always, if you have any questions about anything at all, don't hesitate to give me a shout or email me, and happy to help you out. So again, what we're going to discuss now, so with all, we've been talking about possible changes to the program for years and years and years now, but we're still kind of under the old way of doing things. So what we're talking about now is kind of what's going on under the current EB5 rules, regulations, and laws. And so we get into talking about, what is this new data? So under the current program, there's still two ways to make a TEA. Either you qualify as a rural project, which not very many projects are rural, or high unemployment for the non-rural projects. And so most of you are probably, more interested in the high unemployment TEA aspect of things. And this is where we talk about the yearly, annual updates that the states will be doing or already have done. So it's really important that we stay on top of everything, because it can impact your TEA status for your EB5 project as the data changes from year to year. And so for the high unemployment TEAs, the rules are you still have to find a TEA that hits 150% of the U.S. rate. And so this year we're worried about 2018 data. So the states now are switching over from last year's calendar year 17 data to calendar year 18 data. For the 2018 U.S. unemployment rate was 3.9%. So the new threshold that we're looking to hit is 5.9%, down from 6.6 from last year. So many states have already updated to this new data, and then most of the remaining states will be updating in the next month or so. So California, for example, should be updating today. Last time I checked their website, it had not been updated yet, but they should have that updated today. Some of the other bigger states like New York will update a little bit later this month. But let me know if you have any questions on any state-specific questions. So again, just quickly kind of goes over from year to year how the unemployment rates have changed. So we've been on an unemployment rate decline for a while now. So the threshold keeps getting lower and lower. So we always get the question every year, does this lower threshold it should mean it's easier for us to make a TEA, right? And unfortunately, that's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of moving pieces that go into the final TEA calculations. And so really each location, you make sure you do a site-specific analysis, which we can always help you out with. So the lower rate doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make it easier for us to find that 150% of the national rate for TEAs. So again, focuses, the question, do I need to get a new letter? The answer is, probably. One thing to get into, which was kind of surprising on the rural side of things, which we'll discuss a little bit later as well. Usually from year to year, there's not very many changes to the counties that might be eligible for rural status. So on the rural side of things, you have to be outside of an MSA to be able to be considered as a rural TEA. And usually over the years, there's not really many changes that the Office of Management and Budget makes to those MSA delineations, but they did release some new files in September 2018. And several states, did add and also add and subtract counties from the MSA. So some of these states that might be impacted going forward on the rural status are listed there below. I'm not sure, USCIS is not very clear on this. I'm not sure how many of these or what kind of exactly which file USCIS might be looking at for these. So if you have any questions on if you think your location might have been impacted by any of these changes to the MSA delineations, give me a call and we can chat about it. Also, our updated online map has all those changes as well. We'll talk about that in a minute. So do I need a new TEA letter, and why do we care about any of this? So the key is that when you're filing your I-526 investor petition, you need to include evidence of the TEA. While if your project isn't an MSA or a county that qualifies on its own, then you don't really have to worry about things too much. But most of your projects most EB-5 projects are not in an MSA or county that has high enough unemployment to qualify on its own. So we have to get into using census tracts and or block groups. And this is where we have to get into dealing with the states. And since the states are now changing over their data, it's important that you have the latest, a letter from the state that's using the latest and greatest data. And so timeliness is of the utmost importance of this. So USCIS, while they have not provided the greatest guidance on what they consider a timely TEA letter, their RFEs have gotten a little more specific, and we'll get into the language here. And so, the question, does a TEA letter expire? Again, over the years, USCIS hasn't really said, the TEA letter is good for this and this and this amount of time. However, we have seen a few recent RFEs where USCIS does specifically state the TEA letter is only valid until new unemployment data is available. So it appears they may be, kind of tightening up on their on what they're how they're looking at things. So again, if you have any questions, give me a call, and discuss with your attorneys as well. Using an outdated TEA letter is definitely adds a big risk factor to your I-526 petitions. So again, when filing your I-526, make sure that your letter is using the most up-to-date data. So just a quick update on some of the state-specific updates. So every year there's at least one or two states that kind of change things, will kind of change the TEA policy in the middle of the year or whatever. So again, a key takeaway from all this is that each state does things differently as far as TEA. Some are very restrictive, and some are very flexible as far as letting you kind of aggregate census tracts and block groups to make a TEA work. So just some quick notes on some of the states and cities and also cities in Texas that have changed. So Alabama has gotten more restrictive. North Carolina has gotten more restrictive. Fort Worth just has like some unique project-specific requirements about the wages and kind of where the location is. And then San Antonio also released a new TEA policy as well that is a little bit more restrictive than the prior policy. So again, if you have any questions on it or let us know, we can double check things for you. But in general, when states are changing these days, they're kind of moving to be more restrictive. So just some quick background on TEAs again. Currently the TEA question is still a make or break issue. So most EB5 projects that are not in TEAs, are not marketable these days because the investors only want to pay $500,000 instead of the $1 million. Again, these thresholds could go up if we have any legislative changes or changes through DHS, but we'll see, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So again, EB5, investments are the majority are in TEAs and continue to be in TEAs. A question we always get is, are the TEA rules and regulations the same for both direct and regional center projects? And the answer to that is yes. So regardless of if you're doing a regional center project or a direct project, the TEA rules are the same. So we can just chat a bit about the current definitions. Again, we talked about rural versus high unemployment earlier. And so on a rural area, this is where that metropolitan statistical area definition comes in. To qualify as a rural area, you have to be outside of an MSA and also outside of a city or town having a population of 20,000 or more. So that's why it's important that that list of MSAs, the MSA list that recently changed, has potentially changed up the rural status of some counties. Again, I'm not sure what USCIS exactly is going to be looking at, but if you have any questions again on that, let me know. And again, our map is updated with these new definitions. So again, quick on the rural criteria. On the population side of things, it won't be updated until the new census comes out, which won't be in 2 or 3 years. But we'll stay on top of the MSA delineations on the county side of things. So again, rural status usually doesn't change very much, but it seems lately we're going to need to be a bit more mindful of things on the rural side. If you do have a rural project, there's no need to get the states involved. You just provide your own evidence, and we can help you with that and let us know if you have any questions on that. Again, high unemployment, back to what the majority of you are probably concerned about. Again, we're still dealing with this 150% of the national average rate to try to hit a high unemployment TEA. Again, the current threshold is 5.9%. And determined by the states. So again, an area can be a county or an MSA if it qualifies on its own, but in practice, we're dealing with groups of census tracts and groups of census block groups. So an example here on this map, for example, just as a quick kind of simple example, the project location you can see by that star is within a census tract that does not qualify on its own, which are represented by the orange tracts. But if we aggregate the unemployment together, we can create a TEA area that works. Again, in practice, it's not usually that simple, but most states are flexible enough to allow you to certify a TEA based on something like this. So again, we've updated our new map with this new data. So let's go out and check it out real quick. So again, for those of you who are kind of used to the map, it has kind of our familiar layout. Again, if you don't want to deal with kind of looking at things your own, you can click up here to get a free TEA review. We'll also be happy to do a free preliminary jobs analysis for you if you have a regional center project to kind of see how many EB5 investors that you might be able to get for your project. And then also feel free to text or call me at this number again if you have any questions at all. So you can use these buttons up here to kind of scroll in and out. And as you get out further, you'll kind of see how the rural areas will pop up versus the non-rural areas. So the map is set up with the updated rural delineation. So if you do pop up in a blue area, you can click on it, and so over this is Blanco County, Texas. So let you know that Blanco County is rural in its entirety. And also the lighter blue map will, or census tracts or counties will let you know. For example, this county is rural except for one of the cities within that county that has above 20,000 population on it. Again, any questions, just let me know. But most of you will be concerned with the, with the high unemployment with the metro area projects. So if you have an address or an intersection, you can type it in up here. So I'll just, for an example, type in Colorado and West 16th Street in Austin, Texas. And then the map should take us there, and we can take a look at, scrolling it out to kind of take a look at how the area is shaping up. And so here, looks like this is within a census tract that does not qualify on its own. As we can see, it only has 1.7% unemployment rate. But we have a couple of orange tracts around it that if we do the math and aggregate the employed and the unemployed and calculate the aggregate weighted average unemployment rate, we see if we can get above this 5.9% that we have to hit over here. So so this map is a good guide, and so if we combined all three of these tracks, we would get an area that would work mathematically. And then the key for Texas, for those of you with Texas projects, is Texas is, and this is why I'm kind of doing a Texas example, because Texas is the only state where we have to get sign off from the city mayors or the county judges. So if you have a Texas project, it can be even more complicated. So let us know if you have any questions on that. We've worked with many of the jurisdictions throughout Texas to get TEA letters, so we can help you out there as well. And so, again, our map is a good guide. It kind of can help you point you in the right direction. But even if you think your TEA might not work, let us double check it for you, because there may be some calculations with block groups and other kind of things we know about how the different states and the different cities in Texas work. So it's always good idea to get another pair of eyes. So just kind of use our map as a guide, but always let us double check it for you. So we'll head back to slide here. So again, kind of just getting back into currently when you're dealing with the states, if under the simple scenario, you won't have to deal with census tracts and census block groups, but almost all projects will have to. So again, when you're dealing with the state agencies, and again, the state process can differ drastically, and they're often, like we said earlier, there's a handful that will kind of change up their policies in the middle of the year on you. So just be mindful of how each state does things as far as TEAs go. And so while USCIS has given the flexibility to the states to determine what the shape is, so as long as the area is contiguous and the math works, USCIS should not question what the state designates as a TEA, but USCIS will double check that, that the math works, it's contiguous, and everything is up to date. So again, we didn't really get into the details on how the census tracts rates are calculated and all that. Didn't want to get into the weeds on that, but let me know if you have any questions on getting into the kind of the weeds of the calculations. And again, key takeaways are just, you probably need a new TEA letter. States do things differently, and it's always good to get another set of eyes on things to check your TEA status. So let's talk a little bit about the program in general. So looks like, for now there's a clean extension until September 30th of this year. We've been talking about legislative changes for a long time yet, but but nothing, we haven't seen any changes yet. I think, kind of the hotter topic now is there going to be possible changes through the DHS proposed rules. So the comment period is now over on the DHS proposed rules, and it's now under, what appears to be final review at the Office of Management and Budget. The main issue related, to TEA is that these new proposed rules propose to drastically raise the investment amount. So the TEAs and the standard investment were both more than double. So it really changes the program a lot. The TEA investment going from 500,000 to 1.35 million is a huge jump. And besides the investment levels, they would also remove the states from the TEA process, and DHS would just take over completely. So while there could be possibly less confusion, since it would be the same process for everyone, you wouldn't have these questions of, oh, well, will this state accept this versus this other state? There's legitimate concerns about how quickly DHS would respond to about TEAs, because with how long I-526s and I-29s and 924s are taking the process right now. Definitely legitimate concerns about the TEA response times should DHS take over the TEA process. Besides the investment levels going up, the proposed rules would really severely limit also the grouping of census tracts. So while currently the states are very flexible and you can kind of get as creative as you want as long as the math works and the state will certify it. The proposed rules would only allow you to combine tracks that are contiguous to the project track. So in this example, you can see you could only, if the math didn't work with just the project track shown here with the orange outline, and then you could only also use the census tracks that are outlined in purple. So that would severely limit the possibility for TEAs compared to the current rules right now. So here's another kind of example of the limit on. So here's downtown Memphis, where downtown Memphis obviously has really high unemployment in general, but if you happen to have a project that located in this blue part, you would not be able to make a TEA under the proposed rules, whereas you can make one easily under the current rules. So just an example there. So we really don't know what's going to happen. It's still kind of anybody's guess on if, when, or what kind of rules might take effect. So just good to kind of be mindful of the current rules and obviously we're analyzing things under the current rules right now, but be mindful of the possible rule changes that could take effect, even though it's hard to predict if or when things might actually happen. So again, that kind of wraps up the main presentation. Try to kind of run through things a little bit quickly today. But let me know any questions, and then again, if you have any questions right now, feel free to type them in on your webinar pop-up, and we'll just give it a second. And so far, I don't think there's any questions right now. If anything pops up as you're reviewing your project locations, feel free to just get in touch. Here's some resources from us. And then, as always, besides TEAs, let us know if you have any questions on the economic studies and business plans. And as always, we're here to kind of help you do some preliminary work up front, no charge, just to help you kind of make that decision. If you have an EB5 viable project, so let us know. We're happy to double check your TEA, no charge, and also help you run a preliminary jobs estimate as well up front. So thanks again for joining, and just be in touch if you have any questions at all, and we'll send out a link with the YouTube link to a copy of this webinar. Thanks again.